I think you picked up three or four permissions and beautifully integrated them in the approach that we are talking about. I now go back to the workplace where I probably, grew up in a fixed world. Now I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
workplace. I'm in a mid-career situation. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how do I use these permissions? Can you pick up two or three examples of permissions that you talk about in the book, and then apply it back to say, you know what, this is the way probably you will then start owning up these permissions for yourself, and then start building it. So, how would you help us uncover this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the workplace now is a very contested space. We've got 5 generations in workplaces, each of whom is coming with their own expectations of how we're supposed to work, how we're allowed to work. And so I think, let me come back to feel your way.
Hmm.
Um, I think we need to give ourselves permission to show up to each other as humans and have good conversations about how the world is changing, how it's affecting us, how we're different. We've gotten into this kind of okay, boomer, and Gen Z is useless, and don't get me talking about the millennials. We're sitting in these very judgmental spaces where we think every other generation is ridiculous. Guess
Hmm.
what? Every generation is a response and an adaptation to the circumstances that they grew up in. So, yes, you grew up in a fixed world, and therefore you operate in a certain way. You can't help that. So, I want to encourage us to approach each other with a little bit of feel, a little bit of empathy, a lot of curiosity, and have fruitful conversations about organizational culture, about what the rules are, because they're changing in real time. And I think leaders need to be far more intentional about organizational culture and continually kind of engaging with it. And lead that not from here of you're just an entitled fool or you're just a stuck in the mud idiot to, hi, I'm Jillian and I want to know more about what it is that you have to offer to this workplace. So, let's start there. Um, I'm going to bring up another one because you haven't talked about it, which is look for trouble.
Yeah.
Um, I think in a world of profit and productivity, we're always looking for quick fixes. We're kind of skating past each other a lot. And I think there are a lot of issues, interpersonal, operational, strategic, that, feel hard right now. And I think we're afraid of engaging with them because it's going to slow us down, because we're going to get into a fight, because it's going to just waste too much time. And I'd rather just finish my to do list. And I think, we need to kind of be willing to go towards some of our biggest challenges in the workplace. And as I say, look for a teacher and not a fight,
Hmm.
because there's enough fighting. But more of sort of what can we learn together when we sit down and try and figure something out together? Again, whether that's a super practical issue or a technical one we're really struggling with. Because I think that when people come together to try to examine an issue, a problem, or a challenge, there's a really interesting connection that's forged. There's so much learning that takes place. Your empathy and your curiosity and all of these things that I'm talking about come to the fore quite naturally. And I think, we need to not be afraid of some of the most problematic things that are facing us. And I think the past 10 years have made us all sort of walk around with each other, kind of worried about whether we're going to get into trouble, whether we're going to cause trouble. And I actually think we should own it, engage with it, acknowledge it, and allow it to teach us and allow it to connect us, perhaps in a way that it hasn't before. So, yeah, those are a couple things that come to mind.